Mark 6:45. And straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship and to go to the other side before unto Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. And when he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray. And when he was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling and rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the fourth watch of the night, he cometh unto them, walking upon the sea, and would have passed by them. But when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out, for they all saw him, and were troubled. Now, just to kind of set the scene here, we see that the disciples are in the sea, and there's a lot of trouble. There's a lot of things going on in the sea that aren't very good. I mean, they're in a ship, and they got, imagine these great winds coming in the ship, and they're facing with something where it's kind of like, oh man, what's going to happen? Now, I don't know how many people have been on an airplane. I mean, has you been on an airplane? Think about, have you ever been on an airplane? Have you ever been on an airplane when there was turbulence? I remember being on an airplane before, and there started to be like some intense turbulence. I mean, I was scared. I mean, it was like, I was saved at the time, but I was scared because like the plane just starts shaking. All of a sudden, things are not stable anymore, and it's shaking, and you're wondering, is it going to lose complete control? And at the time, we're flying over water, and I'm like, wow, if this thing crashes, we're going right in the water, and we're going to die. I mean, that is not a comfortable thought. You know, everybody, when that happens, when that plane starts to shake, when it starts to move like this, everyone just, all of a sudden, life freezes before your eyes. Imagine the pilot at the time and the co-pilot. They all of a sudden became probably completely focused on right now, this moment, what can I do to try and stop this? Now, it's the same thing here with Jesus' disciples. They're in a sea, in a boat, and it says that the wind was contrary unto them. They're in a boat, and I don't know, has anyone ever been in a boat in the middle of the ocean? No? I haven't. Imagine being in a boat in the middle of the ocean, and all of a sudden there's these great waves, and it says the third watch in the night, and I did a little bit of digging up, and it sounds like it's about somewhere between 3 and 6 o'clock in the morning. You get the idea, real late at night, okay? It's dark outside, you're in the middle of the sea, and maybe in the middle, it feels like the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden, everything is rocking in that ship. Doesn't life feel like that sometimes? Does not life feel like that sometimes? Or you ever feel like you're in the ship and it's like, hey man, it's like, what's going on here? What's going on with my life? What's happening with my life? Am I going to make it through? Am I going to make it through this day? Am I going to make it through? Am I going to keep my job? Am I going to have enough money to get through the day? What's going on? And maybe someone listening online and having a problem with their marriage. And if you're fighting with your spouse and if things are going wrong in your marriage and you got kids, it can rip your heart apart. I know when I'm fighting with my wife, and believe it or not, sometimes that happens, it feels like I'm in the middle of the sea, and the wind is going to walk me down, and I'm dying. I'm going to be gone because it hurts. And the disciples were in the midst of the sea. The wind was contrary unto them. It's late at night. All of a sudden, they see this dude walking on the water. They see this dude walking on the water towards them, and they think it's a spirit. Now I did a little bit of digging up, and it's not necessarily something you see in the Bible, but from what I understand, it seems like at that time that some people thought that when death would be at the door, that they may see like some type of spirit, and they were troubled at Jesus' presence. Now, if you turn the Bible to John chapter 6, and keep yourself in Mark chapter 6 right now. Mark 6, we're going to go to John 6 for the parallel passage. John 6, stay in Mark 6. John 6. John 6:16. John 6:16. And it says in John 6:16, it says, and when even was now come, his disciples went down unto the sea and entered into a ship and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark and Jesus was not come to them. You get the idea that Jesus was supposed to come to them, but he didn't come. Where's Jesus? He was supposed to come. He didn't come, it sounds like. That's what I get from this verse. And the sea rose by a reason of a great wind that blew. So when they rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea and drawing nigh into the ship, and they were afraid. Interesting enough, they see Jesus. I don't know if they know who he is or if they don't recognize who he is. Later on, we find out that Jesus tells them who he is. But maybe they see him and they're just terrified at his presence, or maybe they don't know who he is. But we get the idea that they're in this bad position. They're in this bad position. They're in a position they don't want to be in, and they're scared. Think about in the Bible. There's been a time where this kind of happened before, where they're in a ship, and all of a sudden, Jesus was in the boat in the bottom, and they go, "Hey, look, we're gonna perish." Jesus ends up rebuking the wind and stops everything. So maybe you think that the disciples should have been confident in this situation. They've been in it before, and maybe they're not should go so worried, but I don't know. Now, but interesting enough, this happens after a miraculous event. What the disciples go through as their life hangs at stake in the waters, as the winds were contrary unto them, real late at night. This happens after a great miracle. You see, now, if you turn your Bibles, just go down to John chapter 6, verse 11. So you're already in. Hopefully you turn to John 6:11. It says in John 6:11, it says, "And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were set down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they would. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Therefore they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remain over and above unto them that had eaten." What happens? This event where they get stuck in the sea, where all of a sudden all kinds of bad things happen. This happens at a time where, right after Jesus fed 5,000 people, right after they were in they're in a desert place and they had no food, and they thought they should let the people go and get some stuff to eat, but then all of a sudden Jesus, with 5 loaves and 2 small fishes, fills at least 5,000 people, and it says that there remained over and above what they started with, 12 baskets worth. Hey, for one of each of the disciples, perhaps. And what happens is a great miracle. Can you imagine seeing that? Imagine being somewhere. Imagine we're having church. And we don't have a lot of people here today, but imagine we're having church at Downsview Park. Okay?
Wow.
Imagine all of a sudden there's all kinds of people coming because coronavirus has gone nuts, and all of a sudden there's this remnant that wants to hear God's word. And imagine there's a food strike, and I've heard some stuff about maybe there's going to be food shortages because nobody's working anymore because everyone's scared to work because COVID-19, and they say, hey, we're going to make laws so you can't work. So if nobody works, there's no food, and it's not because there's no food, it's just because they said we made a law so nobody can work, so we can create this fake crisis that's not necessary. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent there. But bottom, imagine we're at Downsview Park, and we got all these people, and we're having church. We got a lineup of great preachers, exciting preachers, a red hot preaching conference or something like that. Now, I'm not saying that all those preachers are great. You get an idea. And we got this preaching event, and we didn't expect all these people. I don't know what's going on, but all Toronto's coming to Downsview Park. It's kind of like who was that guy who came about 10 years ago? That guy, I don't even want to mention his name, that real wicked guy. But imagine there's all of a sudden there's all kinds of people, and my wife likes to bring food to church a lot of times, and she says, hey, we need to feed these people. I'm like, yeah, we'll send them away, and then imagine all of a sudden, with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, we feed the whole group. Imagine that. Imagine witnessing that. It would be a notable miracle. It would be more. Imagine just imagine being what it was like to be there at the time, and what it was like to experience what they experienced. I mean, they experienced a miracle. What Jesus did. They experienced a miracle of what Jesus did. And then right after, that very day, that very night, they're in the sea, and their life, it may feel like their life is at stake. It may feel that all of a sudden, hey, things might end. Even after this miracle. Now, these were Jesus' disciples. And I think many times God does something great in our life. He does something great in our life, and then all of a sudden, it feels like, hey, I'm in the sea, and I'm rowing, and the wind is going to go over my head, and what's happening? I know that I've had some things, even at this church, and starting this church, I know sometimes we've had a lot of people come out all of a sudden. And we had a great services, and it was exciting, and people were charged up about the Word of God. They were charged up about serving God, and then all of a sudden, some crisis hits right after. Mm-hmm. And you were like, wow, I mean, I saw the power of God moving. I saw the Spirit of God moving. I saw all these great things happen, and then all of a sudden, I'm in this crisis. What in the world? And you might say, this is what the apostles are probably thinking. We saw Jesus do all this stuff. We're his main man. We're his head honcho. We're the right-hand man, the top 12 guys. And all of a sudden we're in the sea, and we see this guy walking towards us. He's a spirit. I don't know if it's Jesus, or I don't know who it is, but we're scared. That's what was going on. That's what was going on. Mm-hmm. Now continuing on to Mark chapter 6. Mark chapter 6, verse 50. Mark 6:50. Mark 6:50. And it says, for they saw him and were troubled. This is about when they see Jesus walking on the sea. I mean, if you were in a boat in the midst of the sea, and it was like this today, and the wind was contrary, and it's going nuts, and you see somebody walking on the sea, and you think it's Jesus, do you think you're going to be excited, or you might be a little scared? Probably a little scared, right? And they were troubled by his presence. Maybe they know it was him, you get the idea, maybe they knew it was him. They saw him and were troubled, and immediately he talked with them, and saith unto them, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. Setting them at ease, he's letting them, hey look, guys, it's me, it's Jesus. Mm-hmm. I'm in control here, he's saying. And he went up unto the ship, and he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered. Now, I ask you a question before we move on to verse 52. Have you been, even in the last year, in a situation where you feel like, hey man, I'm in the midst of the sea, and I don't know if this water's going to go over my head? Mm-hmm. You have been. I know you have. I know everybody. I can speak to everybody. Someone at work told me, most of the time life sucks. And I just try to smile to make myself feel better, and it works. That's true. Most of the time life sucks. Most of the time life sucks. I'll be honest with you, a lot of times life sucks. I mean, I even had a pastor who heard that sometime. He was trying to start a church, and he was working a job, and he was going all over the place. He was starting a church, not getting paid for it, working a job. He had a big family, and he didn't sleep a lot. And then he got audited by the IRS, and the IRS said, there's no way anyone drives around this much for their business. You can't write all this fuel off on or car depreciation off on your income. And he says, no, I do. I have the laws. He goes, my life sucks, he says. He says, but my life stinks. I mean, basically, I don't sleep. I sleep in the car. I'm all over the place. A lot of the time, life sucks and it's hard. It does. Now, a lot of times it's great, right? Yeah. I mean, it's great that you're reading your Bible and you feel close to God when you're on your knees and you feel the presence of God, when you're around other Christians, when you're serving God and you feel like you're doing right. You get the warm fuzzies in your stomach, right? And I love the warm fuzzies in my stomach. Well, sometimes I get up in the morning and I start my work. I work from home now, so that's pretty good. And I get my cup of coffee. I go to my wife, where's my cup of coffee? I mean, it's late. I gotta have my cup of coffee. I sit there with my cup of coffee, and I love it. It's good. I got the warm fuzzies in my stomach, and I just woke up, and I'm about starting work, and I'm feeling good because I love coffee. That's a great moment, all right? But later on in the day, man, it ain't like that. Later on in the day, it's like life sucks, man. People are messaging me, hey, Bruce, where's this, where's that? I'm under pressure. I got a meeting with my boss. Hey, am I gonna keep my job? But a lot of times, life is tough. A lot of times, life's hard. My brother even said that. Now, my brother, a lot of you guys met my brother, right? Mm-hmm. And he's a great guy. He's a great joker. He's funny. He's good to be with. Everyone loves him. He's a great leader. But even he told me, most of the times life sucks. But you never know that by knowing him, because he's got a great attitude, and if you hang around him and be around him, he'll make you feel good about life. But anyway, the bottom line is, you've all been in these situations. We've all been in situations where we feel like, I don't know if I can make it. I know someone here waiting for, there's a guy I know, we met yesterday. He wants his wife to come down from Iran, but because of coronavirus, there's been this holdup. And he's out alone, and he obviously doesn't have any friends. And if you've ever been alone, have you ever been alone in your life, it's not very fun when you don't get to see people. I had a few months, I had about 6 weeks one time when I was in Montreal, and I was writing a book, and I didn't see anybody. It was real hard. I could talk to people on the phone, but I didn't actually get to see someone and sit down and have coffee and spend time with them. It sucks, it's hard. And that man, he probably wonders, hey, is my wife gonna get down here? I wanna get out of Iran. That country sucks, and my life is at stake. He says that in that country, if you wanna visit a church, hey, they can put you to death. I know someone else too, that they're waiting for their wife to come down and from another country and waiting for that approval. There's many times where we're going through something tough, or maybe you've lost a job. A lot of people these days, they've lost a job because of coronavirus. And they're out of work, and they don't have money. They don't know if they're going to feed their family. And a lot of times we're in this position where life is tough, and when we're feeling like we're in the midst of the sea. Yeah, I ask this question has Jesus ever done something for you miraculous?
Yes.
Has Jesus ever did something for you that you're like, whoa, God did that for me? Has God ever done something for you where you knew that it was the hand of God, that it was clear that it was the hand of God? Have you ever been there?
Yes.
I know you have. Everybody has. Hey, for you maketh the sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and send rain on the just and on the unjust. And God takes care of everybody. Even wicked people, but even more so Christians, where I know Christians who says, God did something for me that was great in my life. I mean, if He saved you, He did something that was great for you in your life. No doubt the apostles saw great things happen. But what happened was when Jesus came into that ship, into the sea, and the wind ceased, it says the apostles, they were sore amazed. It says, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure and wondered. They're like, whoa, how did this happen, man? They're like, this is nuts, this is crazy. I can't believe this. And it says in Mark 6:52, for they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. So they didn't believe. They're like, they didn't understand what world happened. They were about to die. Jesus walking on the sea. They thought it was a spirit. And all of a sudden He gets in there, He stops everything. And they wondered. It says, they consider not the miracle of the loaves, for the heart was hardened. They didn't believe what they even saw. The heart was hardened. Heart was hardened. Their heart was hardened. After they saw one of the greatest miracles in the Bible, feeding of 5,000, the heart was hardened that night after the feeding of 5,000. Do you think about that for a second? Does that make sense?
No.
It doesn't. I'm telling you, our hearts are so easily hardened.
Yeah.
Our hearts as Christians. Hey, I'm not talking, now maybe there's someone out listening and say, hey, no, my heart is never hardened. I always have faith. I always believe and I never doubt. No, you're a liar. you're allowed. The apostles, some of the greatest men of God. I mean, some of the most probably on fire preachers. A lot of these people, I mean, there's a lot of people who believe that a lot of these men end up being martyred for Christ. Their heart was hard. Our hearts are so easily hardened. Even after God does a great miracle in our life, our heart can get hardened so fast.
It's true.
I think about it, I got married and I prayed for my wife, and I prayed, I remember being in Phoenix and praying, hey, God, give me this woman to wife. I just started dating her. He did. That same year, he gave me a better job. He gave me a promotion. That same year, I was at a church, and it was a church I didn't want to be at, and I really wanted a better church. I wanted a church that preached the gospel clearly. And I found it that same year. I got a wife. I got a better job. I got a church I love going to. It was kind of like this church, not many people, but I loved it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the greatest times of my life. It was probably one of the greatest years of my life. I mean, honestly, I think back now to that time, and I say I was real happy that time. It was one of the best times of my life. And then, a couple years later happened, or a few years later, I got moved to this crazy Indian company called Tech Mahindra. No one wanted to work for it. And I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to even make it here? I can't work with these crazy people. They're crazy. Seriously, some of them are crazy. Anyway, I like them personally. It's great to know those people when you don't work for the company, but when you work for the company, they become nuts. Okay? Anyway, why am I doubting, man? Did God not give me my wife? Did God not take care of me before? Did God not lead me to a church that I really needed to go to when I felt like, he answered so many prayers, he did so many miraculous things before. Why am I, this now? Of course that happened years later, but my heart had gotten harder because I wasn't seeing what God was trying to do. And our hearts so easily get hardened. I'm telling you, God could do something great for you in your life, and a lot of times when God does something great for you in your life, all of a sudden the next thing, you're in the middle of the sea rowing. I mean, it happened to us at this church. We had some great things happen in December, and then we had, a lot of explosions happening in our church. We had some people leave, and then they put a video up on the internet. Why I left Amazing Grace Baptist Church, and they're trying to rip on me and rip on my wife. I didn't listen to it. But yeah, that's the kind of things, that's the kind of stuff that happens. That's the kind of stuff that happens. But the thing is, should you let your heart be hardened?
No.
Should you let your heart, or should you be like, you know what? Jesus is going to do something else. I'm going to just wait. I'm going to just wait now. But the bottom line is, I'm telling you, our hearts, were our hearts hardened here?
Yes.
They were hardened. So do you think that our hearts today can be easily hardened?
Yes.
Oh yeah. I can put my hand up and say my heart's been hardened. I'll tell you 100 times my heart got hardened this week. Okay? I'm talking about harden the heart. If you want to look harden the heart, if you turn your Bibles to Exodus chapter 8, verse 12. Exodus 8:12. Now, when you look at a hardening of a heart, there's no greater person in the Bible where we talk about his heart being hardened than Pharaoh. You could do a search for that on the internet, on eSword or some type of Bible, search engine where you can search the text of the Bible. I know someone in here has a Word document I believe they use, and they use a Control-F and look for stuff. But nobody's heart was hardened more in the Bible than Pharaoh. Now in Exodus 8:12 it says, "And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together upon heaps, and the land stank. But Pharaoh saw that there was but when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said." So Pharaoh, of course, there's a lot of plagues in Egypt, a lot of bad things. You have people's houses filled with frogs. There's frogs all over the place. Imagine that, frogs being all over the place. Imagine going home phone and seeing frogs all over your house. Frogs all over your yard. Imagine we come out here and a frog just drops down into your purse. That wouldn't be fun, right? I mean, that would be terrible. And what Pharaoh does is he knows he knows that God has sent Moses and Aaron to plague the land with frogs. So he goes to Moses and Aaron. He said, look, man, look, dude, look, guys, please go and pray to God that he takes these frogs out of here. He knows God can do it. God does it, takes the frogs out, and then Pharaoh hardens his heart. He says, yeah, I'm not going to let the people go. It says in Exodus 9:7, it says, and Pharaoh sent, and behold, there was not one of the cattle of the Israelites dead. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go. Here we have a situation where so much of the cattle had died in the land of Egypt, not in the land of Goshen. But Pharaoh's peoples saw so much cattle die in one night. This is obviously the hand of God. Pharaoh hardens his heart, and he still. Now he was told, hey, I'm going to put these plagues on you. I'm going to put these plagues on you because I want my people to go. Moses and Aaron told them, Pharaoh, hey, I'm going to put these plagues on you because I want my people to go. Even after all these plagues, he still says, I don't care. I don't care. Exodus 9:34 says, and when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunders were ceased, he sinned yet more and hardened his heart. He and his servants, and the heart of Pharaoh was hardened. Neither would he let the children of Israel go as the Lord had spoken by Moses. There's another situation where there's another plague there was hail and thunders. There was hail mingled with fire. Pharaoh asked Moses and Aaron, you'll pray to God and get this to stop. They pray to God, they get it to stop, yet Pharaoh hardens his heart and he won't let the people go. Now, obviously, when you think about it, do you think that Pharaoh, anyone who is familiar with these stories, don't you think that Pharaoh knew that this was the hand of God, that he was trying to do something? He knew, everyone would say that, Pharaoh, what's going on? It's obvious that God wants you to let the people of Israel go. And he even asked the petition of God. Pharaoh knew that God was doing this, and he would ask Moses and Aaron, pray to remove a plague. They had prayed to remove that plague, and then Pharaoh would say no. And it says his heart was hard. He hardened his heart, and God had hardened his heart. But it says too that Pharaoh had hardened his heart to God. And it says he hardened his heart to God. And the world today, even if you think Christians harden their heart too, but the world today is also hardened their heart to God. The world today is hardened their heart to God, and it's so easy to have your heart hardened. It's so easy for our heart to be hardened. Our hearts just ain't that strong that they're gonna be. Obviously, you can see it even just with Pharaoh. Now, I think of a time where I was in a situation, and I had asked, as an unsaved person, I asked God to help me on that situation. I asked him, God, I was at a time where I was a professed agnostic, and I was in a bad situation, and all of a sudden I did what I'd done before, and I got on my knees and I asked God to help me. Again, as an agnostic. As somebody who didn't go to church, didn't pray, all of a sudden, I'm not joking, something really happened. I was like, a peace went through my soul. And I felt like God was like, hey, saying, I'm gonna get you through this. I felt it was beyond my ability to explain. It's beyond anything. It was so real to me. And I got up and I started to do things, and I got myself out of that situation within, 20 minutes. If I had time, I'd tell the whole story. This is a great story. Now, not long after, it was clear to me that God did that. It was clear to me that God gave me the strength to do that. But you know what I said to explain it about an hour later to myself? That was me. No, that was me. I did it. I reached deep in myself. It was my inner self, and I did it. I don't want to admit God did that. I don't want to admit God did that. No, because I had this mentality like, I can do all things through myself, which strengthens me. That was like the idea. And Pharaoh has the same idea, because Pharaoh reaches out to God. Through it, Moses now pray to God, get these plagues to stop. Yet then when he gets what he wants, like I got what I want, he says, no, now I want what I want. I'm in control here. You guys are not leaving me. You guys are my slaves. You're not leaving me. But Pharaoh's heart as an unbeliever was so easily hardened. We got to realize that not only are our own hearts hardened, but those doors that we knock on, those people we try to get the gospel to, their hearts have been hardened easily. If the apostles' hearts can be hardened so easily, can the world's hearts be hardened? And you think about what kind of situation would cause a person to harden their heart. I don't know. A divorce? A loss of a job? Some type of maybe sexual molestation in the past, or some type of thing that was very hurtful to somebody? That can harden the heart. And we got to realize that. I'm telling you, everybody in this world, like I said, this world, let's face it, oftentimes life sucks. Oftentimes life sucks. It does. And our hearts are easily hardened. Our hearts are even hardened. That's the problem, is our heart gets easily hardened because life can be so tough. And because we can be in situations that are so tough, our heart can be hardened. The bad situations, the tough situations in our life. Does anyone like being in a bad situation? Does anyone like being in a miserable situation? Does anyone like being followed along by a policeman who wants to give you a ticket? Does anyone like being, on a plane where you think it's going to crash?
No.
Figuratively or metaphorically? No. And it's because of these situations that we get it, that our heart can be hardened in life. It's because things aren't going right in our life that our heart can be hardened, even as Christians. And it's the same thing with the unbelievers. Pharaoh's heart, he saw God. He saw what God wanted to do, and he said, no! And the world's like that too. We've got to understand what we're dealing with here in the spiritual battle, even in people we interact with. Now, it says too in Hebrews 3:13, it says, and we don't have time to really get into this too deep, it says, but exhort one another daily while it is called today, lest any man should be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. And I wish we had time to really kind of go into this deeply, but we don't. Our heart can be hardened also by the deceitfulness of sin, by getting into sin, by stopping going to church during the coronavirus, and say, hey, I don't need to go to church anymore. I can watch on the internet. Or I can just, I can watch a sermon at 12 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, and that's good enough. I don't need to meet with the brethren. And getting in and not getting plugged into a church and serving God that way, which is God's ordained, which God has set apart, that we should do. Christ died for the church. You don't want to get the deceitfulness of him could get your heart hardened. And think about what happened to Pharaoh's heart when his heart was hardened. Think about what he did. And you're going to tell me that even as a saved Christian that you can't fall into that branch? That you can't fall into having the heart that way and being that cold to God? Now, I believe that it says in John chapter 12 verse 37, if you turn there, John chapter 12 verse 37. John 12:37, it says, but though he had done so many miracles before them, yet they believed not on him. John 12:37. But though he had done so many miracles before them, yet they believed not on him. He's talking about Jesus. He did many miracles in Jerusalem, many miracles in Judea. Yet many people believed not on him, even after the miracles. You seek me not because you had the loaves, but you seek me not because you had the loaves. You seek me not. I was just turning to John 6. 1 second. John 6. Jesus said in John 6:26, he says, verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me not because you saw the miracles, but because you did eat of the loaves and were filled. He's saying, you're seeking me not because you saw the miracles, but because you ate of the loaves, because you got some free food out of it. Many people, they saw great miracles of Jesus, but they didn't believe on him. You think they should have believed on him when they saw the miracles, when they heard about people being raised from the dead, when they saw lepers being healed, when they saw a blind being healed. They should have believed on Jesus. They should have knew who he was. But many people didn't believe who he was. And it says in verse 38, but that the saying of Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled, which he spake, Lord, who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? Therefore they could not believe, because that Isaiah said again, He had blinded their eyes and hardened their heart, that they should not see with their eyes, nor understand with their heart, and be converted, and I should heal them. So you want to be careful, because it's saying that he had hardened their heart. He had blinded their eyes and hardened their heart. I believe Pharaoh's heart got hardened because by God, because he just had that hard heart. And God gave him over to that hard heart. Because I don't believe that, and why I believe that, I mean, it's the first time you talk about Pharaoh's heart being hardened, it says God hardened it. But I don't believe that God would harden someone's heart to want to go to hell. So they have no choice. Mm-hmm. I believe that Pharaoh probably had that mentality all along, that he's someone just resisting God, which allowed God to harden his heart. We don't want to be like that. We don't want to be Pharaoh. We got to acknowledge that we're like the disciples in the midst of the sea when things get bad and we start to dabble. Even when they saw Jesus, you could be in the midst of the sea and feel like life's going to end. Something bad might be happening into your life. Something bad might be going on in your life now, but no doubt about it, in the next year, something bad will be going on in your life. And you may come to church and feel Jesus, see Jesus, sense Jesus. If you're saved, you have Jesus, and still not believe like they saw him walking on the sea. And still have that hard heart. So it's so important that we got to watch that. Now the thing is, you turn your Bibles to, get ready to close up here. In 2 Chronicles 16. 2 Chronicles 16. But before you go there, I just wanted to read you from Mark chapter 4. Sorry, Mark chapter 8, verse 1. And you don't have to turn there. And it says in Mark 8, verse 1, and this is Mark 8, 1. So now we're after the feeding of the 5,000. This event is happening after the feeding of the 5,000. It says, in those days, the multitude being very great, and having nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples unto him, and saith unto them, I have compassion on the multitude, because that they have now been with me 3 days, and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away fasting to their houses, they will faint by the way, for divers of them came from afar. So this is after the feeding of the 5,000. He's got another situation where there's a bunch of people here who came to hear him speak, came to hear him preach. So imagine another situation. After Jesus fed 5,000 miraculously with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, they get into another situation where they're in a similar situation. Maybe it's not Downsview Park, maybe it's Queens Park this time, or wherever. We already saw this miracle at Downsview Park, where all of a sudden we see 5,000. Imagine 5,000 people get fed with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Now, of course, that didn't happen. But imagine at least that you were in this situation with Jesus, where there was 5,000 people fed with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and seeing this great miracle. And now be imagined into a similar situation, where now maybe you're somewhere else, and it's the same situation. There's a lot of people there, and there's not enough food. And Jesus is saying that, I have compassion on the multitude, because they have been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away fasting to their houses, they will faint by the way, for divers of them came from afar. So Jesus is saying, look, if I send these people away, they're going to die. They've been with me 3 days. They've had nothing to eat. We need to get something to eat. And one of his disciples answered, from whence can a man satisfy these men with bread here in the wilderness? I mean, how dense is he? To be honest with you. I mean, is it a good question? Yeah, it is. It's a good question. But we already went on. Mark chapter 6, he already fed 5,000. I mean, you should know, hey, look, Jesus can do this. Hey, Jesus can get me out of this situation. If he saved you before, if he got you out of something before, if he gave you something you really needed before, he's going to do it again.
Amen.
He said, hey, look, you might have been down, you might have been out, you might have been lonely, you might not have had a wife or a husband, and you might have really needed it, and all of a sudden God came through greatly.
Amen.
You might have had no job, unemployed, and then all of a sudden this opportunity comes, and you know it's God who did it, and he did it. But then what happens when you're in a situation where again you're down? What happens again when you're in a situation when again you're out? You need to remember what he did before. And if he did it before, he's gonna do it again.
Amen.
I mean, if he's gonna take your life, he's gonna martyr you, if it's his your will that you go through some struggling times, that's fine. But he will get you through it. He will get you what you need. He will do that next miracle. You just gotta wait, and you gotta say, my heart, I'm not gonna let my heart be hard. I'm not gonna let my heart be hard like Pharaoh. I'm not gonna let my heart be hard like the apostles. I'm gonna wait for that next miracle that Jesus is going to do. If he fed 5,000, he can feed 4,000. If he gave me a wife, he can give me a job. If I lost my house one time, he gave me that job before, and he's gonna make a means to make it happen. And that's what we got to remember when the things get tough. You got to think about what he did for you before.
Amen.
From whence can a man satisfy men with bread in the wilderness? To Jesus. How are we going to fill these seats up in this church? To Jesus.
Amen.
How am I going to make it financially through the coronavirus? If there's a famine? To God.
Amen.
Through Jesus.
Amen.
Who's gonna satisfy how am I gonna get my needs met? Through Jesus. He
Amen.
did it before. God did it before. God's gonna do it again.
Amen.
Don't let your heart get hardened. Don't let your heart get hardened. Now, if you guys were willing to sit here for 3 hours, I'd keep going, but I know you guys want to get out of here. And I gotta get out of here too. I gotta get something to eat, right? I mean, I gotta get something to eat. I gotta rest. I worked all week. Anyway, another man, Asa. Asa in the Bible, and if you want to go read that, you can read 2 Chronicles 14. Asa in the Bible, King Asa, which goes down as a great king, okay? He goes down as a great king. Does anyone know anything about Asa? Was Asa one of the good kings or the bad kings? Good kings, all right? And Asa was in a situation where he had 580,000 men, 300,000 from Judah, 280,000 from Benjamin. Might have been a Baylor, but the Ethiopians wanted to get him. They had 1,000. They had 1,000,000. And he was going out to battle against 580,000 against 1,000,000. And they were scared in the battle. Asa cries out to God in the battle. He literally cries out to God in the battle. He says, hey God, you can help there's no limit to what you can do. And what happens is God defeats the Ethiopians. God gives him the victory after he cries out. He gives him a great victory over a multitude of forces. Think about, the Battle of 1812. Anyone hear about the Battle of 1812? The Americans came out against the Canadians, outnumbered us 10-1, and we still staved them off. Imagine that, right? I mean, that's pretty good. But Asa sees, he cries out to God. God delivers him. He knew it was of God. And what happens later on is Asa has a situation where Ben-Hadad, the king of Israel, comes out against him. He comes out against him. When Baasha, king of Israel, comes out against Baasha, king of Israel, comes out against Asa, king of Judah. Of course, there was a split in Israel. Baasha, king of Israel, is coming out against Asa, king of Judah. And what Asa does is he sends for the king of Syria, Ben-Hadad. And he sends him a present and says, hey, there's a league with me, and you break your league with Baasha, king of Israel. And basically, hey, save me. And Ben-Hadad does that. He goes out and he saves him. Now, who's he relying on there? Was he relying on God? Not really, right? He's relying on king of Syria, an ungodly person. Mm-hmm. He's relying on someone ungodly. At the end of Asa's life, it says that, as 2 Chronicles 16:12, it says, and Asa in the 39th year of his reign was diseased in his feet. So Asa, at the end of his life, he was diseased in his feet. And it says, and in his disease, until his disease was exceeding great. He had a great disease in his feet. And it says, and yet in his disease, he sought not unto the Lord, unto the physicians. Is there anything wrong to seek the physicians? No. But the primary thing is saying he didn't seek unto God. Asa didn't seek unto God when his feet were diseased. He sought unto the physicians. Now, I think you should do both. But it's saying that he did not rely. Now, Asa was somebody who saw God work in a great way. He saw him work in a great way. I mean, I love that story in 2 Chronicles 14, where Asa is outnumbered and Judah and Benjamin are outnumbered and against the Ethiopians, and he cries out to God in battle. I mean, a grown man, he has mighty men of valor with him, crying out to God in battle. God answers. I love that. I love hearing those stories, how God answers somebody in the midst of their struggle. Asa saw something great. But then, later on, of course, when Baasha, king of Israel, comes out against him, he goes out and sends, he takes gold out of the treasures of the house of the Lord. Gold out of God's house. He takes gold out of God's house, sends it to a wicked guy so he can help him. Evil communications crack what matters, right? I know somebody likes that verse. And that's what he did. Now, and he gets confronted by this. 2 Chronicles 16:7, we're gonna close here. 2 Chronicles 16:7, we're gonna close here in a couple minutes. It says, and at that time Hanani the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said unto him, because thou hast relied on the king of Syria, and not relied on the Lord thy God, therefore is the host of the king of Syria escaped out of thine hand. Were not the Ethiopians and the Lubans a huge host, with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because thou didst rely on the Lord, he delivered them into thine hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Herein thou hast done foolishly, therefore from henceforth thou shalt have wars. Now what I want to focus on in verse 9 is saying, for the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. God is looking through the whole earth to find someone whose heart is perfect toward him. I mean, I believe, and it doesn't say this, but I believe he's looking for someone who's not going to let their heart get easily hardened. He's not someone who's not going to let their heart be hardened like Pharaoh, but he wants someone who's going to have their heart fixed on him, who's saying, in their heart knowing that God will deliver me from what I need, that God will give me the help that I need, that when I'm in a bad situation, it's God who's going to come through, it's God who's going to do it. And believe it or not, God's not looking for a man who thinks he needs to do it all himself by his might or his power. The world teaches you that, it's all my might, all by my power. But God teaches something different. God says, hey, I know you can't do it. I know you're weak. Are we weak? Oh, we're weak. Oh, we're real weak. He says, I know you're weak. I know you're not strong. I'm looking for someone who's going to rely on me. And I'm going to do it. So when you get in a situation when life gets so tough and you feel like you're in the sea and the wind is blowing and you might perish, your heart gets hardened. I want you to think about the times that God has delivered you. And not let your heart get hardened, but wait on the Lord and have your heart fixed on him. Have your heart perfect toward him as much as you can. And wait for God to do that next miracle. We're in there.